Yes. No, no, no. I'm fine. Yes. Um, thank God that He is present here today, and I'll tell you why. I've tried to technically advance myself and refer to this iPad of mine, and I opened it up, and there was a blank page, and I thought, what is going to happen now? But anyway, uh, we eventually got to the notes that I jotted down. Um, just as a bit of a humorous uh, intro, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, whose ministry is in Hawaii, the beautiful island of Hawaii, told us that, when I was reading The Principle and Power of Vision, he said that the mission was to transform followers into leaders. Okay, and if we remember, we also have Pastor Michelle Maxwell here, who told us in the last leadership and mentoring course that, you know what, God actually created us as leaders because He wants us to go and influence non-believers and become believers in pursuit of fulfilling the Great Commission. So we are leaders, whether we like it or not. Okay? And with this thought in question, or with this thought in mind, most of you know that, yes, one of my passions is leadership. And I remember one of the first discussions we had with Pastor Michelle when he took us on this leadership and mentoring course. He says, you know what, leadership consists of 3 different points. It's all about influence, it's all about servanthood, and leadership is not autocratic. Have I got it right, Pastor Michelle? Okay, good. So the passion of mine in terms of leadership is, I see influence in many facets. And to me, one of the biggest, how can I put it, sense of satisfaction that I get is to actually work with people, identify the actual qualities that God has blessed them, develop them, empower them, and thus making a difference in their lives. But, I also ask the question at the end, or the question that I keep on asking myself, is this God's purpose or plan that He has for me? Is it really the purpose and the plan that He has for me? Well, in terms of the worldly text or something, we've heard it so many times that if we don't plan, okay, then we must plan to fail. Now, God is also a very structured God. He doesn't do anything without any purpose behind. Okay, so today I just want to, maybe I'll take 6 minutes then, Pastor Michelle, not the full half an hour. But I've titled my message, or my short message to you today, is Making Plans for Personal Success. Okay, and what does that involve, making plans for personal success? Well, it's knowing the components of your life. Knowing the components of your life. And isn't it easy for us to sit down and start making plans about our lives, about our finances, about our families, about who we want to marry, about which car we want to buy, and Pastor Michelle has told us that on numerous occasions. It's very easy to sit down and make all these plans and to get some sort of satisfaction out of them, although sometimes plans could lead to a lot of frustrations as well. But is it really easy to plan if you don't have a purpose? Have we ever asked that question before? Or know the purpose in our lives? The greatest tragedy is not any of the Shakespearean tragedies that we read, but the greatest tragedy, I think, is living a life without a purpose. Living and not knowing why you're living. It could be depressing, frustrating, a waste of time and energy, and even abuse of the gifts and the talents that God has blessed us with. Now, living a life without purpose, according to Dimitri's dictionary, is, I would classify you as an unguided missile. Okay. So, let's go, if we go to Proverbs 19 and verse 21, the New King James Version says, "There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord's counsel, that will stand." And in the NIV, it says, "Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." So, this is clear cut. As we listened, the truth is the truth, and it's factual, and there are no sort of laws of economics. If this tends to happen, that will prevail, or anything like that. You know, with a bit of sense of humor, you know, everything in the Bible is either black or white. Okay? It's either yes or no, it's either right or wrong. God did not invent the color of gray. I think the gray color was invented by us. Okay? Everything to God is clear cut. And anyway, so in terms of that, I've put here, it is frustrating making plans that accomplish the wrong things. We get occupied with our plans and are busy trying to fulfill them. But at the end of the day, you know, being busy doesn't really mean that you're effective. Eh? And also, being busy could mean that we're actually too, how can I put it, too active but not progressive. We're doing everything but not the right thing. Okay. And we must not live our lives. I've put down that, you know, if you're living your life without a purpose, you're actually living your life by experimentation. Okay, it's not the life that you were meant to live. As per Dimitri, God is saying to us today, hey dudes, hang five, hold it, stop what you're doing. Okay, you're busy, but you're doing the wrong thing. Let me give you some advice. Every plan you make will be in relationship to what you were born to do. Okay. Plans should be consistent with God's purpose in our lives. Okay, so the first topic that covered this was that purpose is more important than plans. Okay, my second sort of topic is purpose is more powerful than plans. It doesn't matter how many plans we have. God's purpose in our life is a lot more powerful. Okay, and you know, this is why in discussion with Pastor Michelle, you know, we were saying when God created Adam, what was Adam's purpose? What did God have in mind? He didn't have a little plan for him. He gave him dominion over the world. And yet, when we sit down and we make plans, we actually minimize and box our effectiveness, okay, and what God meant us to do. You know, we've got small minds, but that's fine. We can start thinking big. Did you know that God's purpose for our life is the reason that He gave us life? If He didn't have a reason to create us, He would not have created us. He designed us for His purpose, and He blessed us with the relevant gifts and talents. Now, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're yellow, whether you're green and come from Mars, or you're pink or any other color, whether you're tall, whether you're short, whether you're fat like me, or bald as Pastor Michelle, you know, we were created for a certain reason that way. Okay, God created us in that image, and He blessed us with how He created us to fulfill our purpose. And if your father was a Frenchman and your mother a Greek, and you were referred to as a freak, okay, that's got no bearings on what God's plans were. Okay, and I think at the end of the day, don't try and minimize ourselves. Okay, all I'm saying is that God intended you to fulfill a certain purpose, and He created you in the image that you are, which at the end of the day we said it's in His image. So I want you to repeat after me. I am perfect for my purpose. Amen. Okay. Now, Jesus also could have been born any color or in any ethnic group and everything, but I think one of God's promises to Abram was that he was going to be the father of all the nations. And with that thread in line, Jesus was then brought to earth as a Jew. Now, the other thing that I actually picked up was that when Jesus came to earth, He didn't come down, or He didn't come to earth to do a job. Did He say that He came to do a job? He actually said, I came to do the work of my Father. He didn't say, my Father came and brought me here on earth to do a job. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when you do a job, you get paid. Am I right? So, purpose. Okay, I've put here, your job is what you get paid to do, but purpose is what you live to do. Okay, God only gives us a job God only gives us a job to train us. That's basically it, I think. So our job is our preoccupation training for our occupation. Okay, our job is our preoccupation training for our occupation. Jesus also said, I came to finish the work my Father gave me to do. He didn't say I came to finish the job. So, if Monday mornings are your blue mornings, and you've reached the stage where you hate your work, you hate your job, you hate your boss, you hate the building you work in, you hate the car that you're driving in, and everything all around, you start hating it and everything, then all I can say is that it means that we've come to the season in our lives to move from our job into our work. Okay, so the third point that I just want to touch on is, and I'm sure you all know the answers, but did you know that our purpose was created before we were conceived? Okay, so I have used purpose here on numerous times. So what does it mean? And in my discussion with Pastor Michelle earlier on, I said, you know what? Purpose is God's will. It's as simple as that. If we live and abide by God's purpose and the plans that He has in store for us, we are actually living according to God's will. Purpose, if we want to put it in a stronger context, we could say that purpose is a decree laid down by God for how we are to live our lives. So, why does God have a purpose for each of us? So the other thing that sort of came to mind is that, you know, purpose is actually the original intention, okay, that God had in His mind that caused Him to create something to get it. It's the original intention that God had in His mind that He caused or created something to get it for Him. Why do I say that? Did God create, how can I put it? Has God created a person before and then sat down and asked Himself, well, why did I create Pastor Michelle? What can we start doing with Pastor Michelle? What work are we going to give him or anything like that? I mean, when God came up with the creation, He had a purpose behind it. And every single person that has been conceived, He's got a plan and purpose behind. It's not that God creates something and He doesn't know why He created it. And I personally think that with the creation, if we went and created all the other planets with other beings and everything, we would have destroyed, actually caused the end destruction of each other. Because what we have done to Earth, other beings and other planets could have done exactly the same, and we'd started sort of fighting with each other. So purpose is doing the right things and not necessarily doing the good things in life. Although, after having said that, it is possible to do a good thing that is not right. And I don't know, the thing is, when I was jotting down some notes with this, I don't know why, but the thought that came to my mind was a carving knife. So a carving knife has been manufactured to be used for carving meat. But if someone takes that carving knife and starts digging in a bed in the garden, it can also fulfill that purpose. But is it doing the right thing? It's not. It was actually manufactured to carve meat, but we're using it for the wrong purpose. Your purpose is so powerful that it tells you who to talk to, who not to talk to, who to associate, who to associate, who not to associate. Even to the extent it tells you what to do, what not to do, what books to read, what books not to read. But do we think of these things in the worldly sort of context? We'll see something advertised on TV or something like that, and we'll say, right, let's go for it. Is that really God's intention for us to go for that? In John 7, 1 to 9, I just want to bring the Bible up here. Okay, so it says here from verse 1 to 9. After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he did not want to walk in Judea, because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the Jews, okay, so what does that actually tell you? That Jesus purposely walked in Galilee, and he didn't want to walk in Judea. There was a purpose behind that. It then says, now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand. His brothers, his family, in other words, therefore said to him, depart from here and go to Judea, that your disciples also may see the works that you are doing. For no one does anything in secret, while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world. For even his brothers did not believe in him. So what are they saying? Hey, get up. In other words, the way that I interpreted this is that, you know, where we can experience, let's say, some members of our congregation, one goes to the other one, hey, John, come. I think you must leave Pastor Michelle's ministry and go somewhere. Go and show your gifts and talents to the world. Go and show what you can do. But was that really the purpose of Jesus? And his reply to that was that then Jesus said to them, my time has not yet come. Okay, so my purpose tells me, or the purpose that God had in mind for me, my Father, tells me to stay here. My time has not yet come. But what does he tell them about their time? But your time is always ready. So in other words, you're living your life without any purpose. Okay, so your time, anything goes. Anything goes. There's nothing behind your actions here. Then Jesus, the world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify of it that its works are evil. So you go up to this feast. I'm not yet going up to this feast, for my time has not yet fully come. He was very clear, and he was adamant. That's it. My time has not yet fully come. Anyway, if we to finish, okay, so if we are clear about what our purpose is and what our calling that God has sort of placed us to fulfill, then we should actually, every morning we wake up, we should be very clear as what we need to do. There shouldn't be any element of doubt at all. The only advice I can give is spend time with God, and he will guide you, and he will start showing the purpose he has for you. Commit the plans for your purpose to God. He's our guiding hand. He will take us and direct us step by step to achieve that purpose and the plan he has in store for you. And he's got a mighty big plan and purpose laid out for you. I just want to just read the 3 verses here of Proverbs 16. And it says, the preparations of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirits. Commit your works to the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. Commit your works to the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. Whatever plans you have in mind, He will assist you to establish. So the question that I continuously and always ask myself is the question that I will pose to every one of you. Are you all, or are we all, living our lives according to the purpose and plan that God has for us? Are we living it according to His purpose and plans? Are we getting up, energized, excited, and enthusiastic about the works that we're going to do during the course of the day? Only you know the answers. Thank you very much.
Amen. Praise God. You know, I remember talking about purpose a number of years ago. I remember somebody said there are more pastors walking the streets than there are pastors doing the work of a ministry. And the reason is because those pastors came into the ministry not because God had called them to do that, just because they thought it was a good idea. And of course, you know, in other words, the purposes of God for their lives is very different to the choices that they made. And they went into the ministry when God called them to be business people. And the same, you have business people who are actually in the